Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Mason, and I work for Congressman Roger Marshall's office. Today is November 7th, 2019. We are in Manhattan, Kansas, and this interview is for the Veterans History Project, and I have in front of me Mr. Tony Nichols. Mr. Nichols, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Anthony C. Nichols. My friends call me Tony. I am 53 years old. I live in Manhattan, Kansas, and I live here with my wife Janet and my two daughters Jillian and Eleanor.
Beautiful. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Marietta, Georgia until I was 16 years old, and then my father, who was an airline pilot, got transferred, and I had to move to Tampa, Florida, for my last 2 years of high school. And I went to Walton High School in Marietta, Georgia, and then I went to Berkeley Prep in Florida.
Cool. So, any family served besides yourself?
My father was a fighter pilot, if you can believe it. He was very good with numbers and math. He still is. He's 90 years old. But he was a fighter pilot. He flew F-86s, and he went through training during the Korean War, and about 60 days after the ceasefire, he was in theater doing reconnaissance work over North Korea and China and Russia. He was a RF-86 pilot.
Now, you told me before this interview that you were a specialist and an officer. Any schooling before you joined the military outside of high school education?
I went to Florida State University. I graduated in 1988 with a degree in fashion merchandising.
Super cool. Why did you join?
I joined because I had a degree in fashion merchandising.
Where did you enlist?
No, I joined because I got out of college, and I was working in the retail industry with fashion, and you know, it's a nice way to make a living, but not for somebody like me. I wanted to go out and go pirating. So I was engaged to a girl and I didn't really want to get married either. So I chucked it all. I enlisted as a cavalry scout and joined the Army.
Where did you enlist at?
I enlisted in Tampa, Florida, at the University Square Mall Enlistment Center.
And what branch did you join?
United States Army.
Beautiful. How long did you serve?
In total, I served 23 years, 4 months, and 1 day, I think.
First duty station?
My first duty station was Gelnhausen, Germany, 1 year after the wall fell. And everybody thought everything was done, and they were getting ready to deactivate our unit, and then Desert Storm kicked off.
I wasn't going to ask you this, but what was it like in Germany right around that time? It must have been fascinating.
There were 300,000 American soldiers in Germany alone, and that's bigger than our army right now. So it was completely different. I mean, it was a whole culture, an American culture over there in Germany. It was a lot going on. It was a lot of fun.
A lot of travel?
I was a private. I wasn't allowed to have a car, even though I was a college graduate. So I didn't travel a lot, but I did drink a lot of German beer.
Hardest part of the military lifestyle?
Hardest part about the military lifestyle is after you get married. When you're single, you don't care what happens because you've got nothing else to do, and it's kind of fun. But when you get married, is leaving your family. That's the hardest part, being away from your family.
What was the easiest part for you?
The easiest part was probably once you got into a combat theater and you were let loose to do what you had to do. That was the easy part. When you were all that training and all that, when you finally got there and you were able to do your job, that's when it became easy.
You talk about combat theater. Where all did you serve?
I was in Operation Desert Storm as a cavalry scout for 3rd of the 8th Cavalry in 3rd Armored Division, 7th Corps. I was a MIT team leader, a 9-man team in Iraq, and we were advised in combat an Iraqi T-72 battalion. And then in Afghanistan, I had pretty much had enough at that point. I volunteered for a staff job. But I used to travel around with the guys driving around Kabul in armored SUVs, just being gun duty, because, you know, I can handle myself.
Okay, so we already touched on it, but you're a specialist and then you're an officer. Did you serve overseas as a specialist, or was it all serving as an officer?
Well, after Desert Storm, I got sent to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and that's where Janet and I had our courtship. And at Fort Stewart, I was just in the regular army. You know, we didn't go anywhere. Oh, I did go to Panama. And I did go to Egypt, but those are just training exercises. But they were kind of cool. Yeah.
How did your combat wartime experience change you as a person?
Well, you know, the first part was coming to terms with the fact that you were not the same person. You spend the first few years trying to be the same person, but once you make peace with the fact that you're not the same person, it becomes easier, and you just find ways around things. You figure out that I think those changes that happen to you in combat never go away. You just have to find ways to just work around them.
While you were over there, any good luck charms? Anything you did?
Yes, yes. I had a set of dog tags, and we had silver little girl cutouts made for each of my daughters, and one says Ellery and one says Jillian. And I had that done, and then my mother gave me a religious medal, and then I wore it every day, every mission I went on, every single time.
Brought it back home to Manhattan, Kansas,
Yep.
huh? Did you recall the day your service ended? Like, fondest memory? What was the day like that Tony Nichols left the military?
Well, the funny part is, they don't drag you kicking and screaming out of the Army. You're ready to go, not because you don't like the Army anymore. I always say the Army is a perfect place, staffed by imperfect people. But, I was ready to go. I was tired. Things were starting to break. But I was at Fort Leavenworth, and you go in and you have paperwork you got to do, and then you make sure all your stuff's ready for your retirement and your pension and all that, and then they literally stamp your paper and say, here's your flag, here's your stuff, you're done.
What do you miss most about the military? And then don't say the MREs, because I know you'd be lying to the both of us.
Well, I do miss the MREs. It's not what I miss the most. Hanging with the guys, a bunch of like-minded, like-experienced, guys, all row in the same boat to the same cause. I miss that, the camaraderie.
You speak about camaraderie. Do you still communicate with all of your friends? See them?
Oh yeah. I mean, being in the middle of the United States, Janet will tell you we have people come by all the time. Just hey, this guy's come by. Who's he? Well, I was here with him. So I see a lot of them come by. We're all on Facebook together. Absolutely.
How did the service affect the way you relate with others?
Well, when you're in the Army, you think that you're just, I'm in the Army, it's just my job. But you kind of don't notice when you are culturally changed forever while being in the Army. So when you get out of the Army, you realize that you don't know how to talk to civilians. And I still don't. I mean, that's still something that I work on every day. It's just the ability to relate to them, because they have different ways that they communicate. And maybe I don't understand those. So it's difficult.
Now you said Leavenworth and you came back home, so I'm assuming you went to Fort Riley and Fort Leavenworth, so were those your last two duty stations?
Yes, we came to Fort Riley here in Manhattan when I was a major. We did 3 years here, and we loved it. We love it as much today as we did then. So we decided, when my time came up to change duty stations, because the Army moves you every 3 years, that I was going to go to Leavenworth and do my tour there as a geographical bachelor. So we got a great deal. I shared a set of quarters with another guy. And, it wasn't bad. I came home on weekends, but, it was good we left him here. It was better that we left him here.
So which duty station is really better, Fort Riley or Fort Leavenworth?
I would say Fort Riley is a better duty station, because it's a line unit, A lot of excitement, a lot going on.
So do you still affiliate yourself with the Big Red One?
I do, because I would consider myself more of an advocate for the Big Red One. I want to make sure, we were standing on Normandy Beach, and this woman said, "Why are you guys wearing a one on your shirt?" Oldest division in the American Army, World War II, been in every war we ever had. Yeah, that one.
What was the final rank you held?
I was Lieutenant Colonel.
Colonel, you want to tell me about some of the medals you won or you earned while you were in the service?
Absolutely. I have 2 Bronze Stars, one from Afghanistan, one from Iraq. I have a Legion of Merit as a retirement award. I got a Combat Action Badge. That's probably the one I'm most proud of, because anybody can get a Bronze Star, but Combat Action Badge, you actually have to be in the 2-way rifle range for that one.
What are some life lessons you learned, or some life lessons that you would like to push on to somebody else to learn?
I would say that even if you do 2 years or a career in the Army, I think it's something that everybody should do, because you will find out exactly how strong you are, what you're capable of, and you will learn, interaction skills and coordinating skills with your other, fellow humans that you will take with you forever. It's a wonderful experience.
Other side of it, let's flip it around. A brand new private wants to join the military and he watches your video. What would you leave for him? Some advice. Or maybe just an officer in OCS. What was some advice you would give?
Well, I would say that the best advice that I could give anybody about the military, and it's like you can't see the forest for the trees. Do what they tell you to do, wear what they tell you to wear, be where they tell you to be, when they tell you to be there, and volunteer when they ask for volunteers. You will be a general.
Spoken like a true officer.
Yes.
What drove you after the military? I see a lot of art here. Is art big in your life post-military?
Absolutely. It served two basic purposes when I got out of the Army. I was under the assumption at some point when I was in the military that I wouldn't have much trouble finding a job, but that's not the case. It's hard because and I get it. You spend your whole career learning to close with and destroy the enemy, and that doesn't really apply to anybody in the civilian world. So they look at you as, well, what can you do for me? And they don't know. I fought a war in a different language, backwards, at night. I could do anything. So when that didn't pan out, we figured out that Janet had much greater skill sets than I did. She got a job, with the chamber, and she still got that. And I said, well, wait a minute, I've been doing this for years. I said, I can do this. I can make a career out of this. But, that's a lesson to learn also, is that no matter what your rank is when you come out of the Army, you're starting over. I mean, just like you were getting out of college, you are starting over. So, I'm climbing up that ladder, and it's all on art. So I love it, and it makes me happy.
Now, I know PTSD is a touchy subject, but do you think that helps?
Absolutely.
Sitting and doing some art.
Absolutely, because when you figure out that you've got this, this black wet towel that hangs on you all the time, there's one way you could not think about it that's probably constructive, and that's do something constructive. Do something with your hands. Don't drink. Don't yell at people. Just do something constructive. And that's what I try to do. Once I get into this, whatever I'm thinking about, whatever I'm fixated on, it just goes away.
Now, I know you and Janet are very close, but is there anything you want to share about your service time that maybe she hasn't even heard?
I would say that when you always hear when you're a kid that veterans don't want to talk about the war. I think the reason that nobody wants to talk about a war is because it's in your head, and you don't want to put it in somebody else's head. And make no mistake about it, when they drop you, the bus drops you off in combat, you realize that you're there for an entire year. There's no getting out of it. There's no raising your hand saying I quit. There's people trying to kill you, and you can either step up and do what it takes to win, or you can, come home with your shield or on it. And I decided that no matter what it took, no matter, what I had to do that was dangerous, I was going to do it to get home. You had to go in there and jump into the mosh pit of insurgents and start fighting. And that's what we did. And it was so dangerous. I would call her every day that before we went on a patrol, I'd call her, just in case.
Oh, that's actually pretty touching. If there was one thing you wish more people knew about veterans, what would that be?
I always tell my friends that are civilians that own businesses that hire veterans. It doesn't matter what rank they are. I said hire them because they will work till they're dead. Because they've already transitioned to, in the military world, you have a mission. You do it until it's done. They'll work harder than anybody you've ever seen.
Is there anything you would like to add to this interview that I didn't touch on?
I would like to talk about the advisor mission in Iraq. Because
Okay.
I think that it is something that maybe in the future, when this is viewed by future generations, it'll come out. But they sent about 1,000 advisors into Iraq in 2005, 2006, and they cleaned out all the staff positions and weirdos like me, because I was working some weird job. and sent them to Iraq to live with the Iraqi army and train them. And while I understand that some of those people were absolutely horrible, and I fired some of them myself, I think that the contribution those advisors made needs to be recognized on some level, because it was the most dangerous job. I couldn't even imagine what that was when I was before I went. Because I'm a tanker. I was on tanks, a tank commander. I'm very good at tanks, and they sent me to advise an Iraqi tank battalion in combat. With just here, go do it, you know. And all the guys that were in my team, not one of them was a combat arms soldier. I mean, but we won. We succeeded. So I think that I think more attention should be paid to that mission and what they did.
Beautiful. Well, we are a couple days away from Veterans Day, so I'll be the first one to tell you Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
The
you.
debt is paid.
Thank you for your service. And that concludes our interview. So thank you very much, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you.